This is my insight into Batman v Superman and what I think about it and the storylines. Maybe you should read to fully get in depth for it. I will be providing some screenshots of the storylines and audio, so yeah. So for this I'll be talking about, as I call him, sort of referencing BVS, as Jess Luthor. This is the Birthright or Superman Birthright incarnation of him that's a screenshot of. Don't confuse it with Rebirth. Sometimes I accidentally say Rebirth or whatever, but Birthright. And it's kind of like a throwback to the original first created Lex Luthor, sort of. More eccentric, mad scientist, had red hair. Because the more iconic Lex Luthor, bald sort of businessman of LexCorp, but maniacal at the same time. He wasn't really formulated until like the 80s, like that. So, yeah. So Jess is pretty accurate considering what he's portrayed on. Yeah. Now I'll be talking about Death of Superman, which I guess is pretty heavily pushed on BVS. They sort of put a lot of storylines in here, and I'm covering some of them, and this is one of them. So, Death of Superman is where we are introduced to Doomsday, who is a Kryptonian bioengineer, bioengineering project to be like the ultimate hunter. He ends up, breaking out, and then he wreaks havoc and he goes after Superman. He is one of the more equals to Superman, obviously, because he defeated him. And I put this screenshot right here because I like this, because it shows that Doomsday is still, like, if you look, he's only just a little bit taller than Superman. I wish they would have done that in Batman v Superman, because that's actually one of my least favorite parts, is what they did. Because they could still have all three battling him, and that'd be even cooler, like showing like he's the same height and stuff and muscle, but he's just a beast. He doesn't have to be so big and wet, whatever. I don't know, I thought it was executed poorly, but that's just me. I wish they would have done it like this. I would have thought that was cool. Having three of them up against just someone that's a little bit taller and but still very strong. I figured since Death of Superman is the one we just talked about, that's very heavily pushed upon Batman versus Superman, then it would make sense to push, sort of the 50-50 other heavily inspired storylines upon Batman v Superman: The Dark Knight Returns, which hopefully doesn't, sound stupid, but I've read it like 10 times and it's my favorite graphic novel. So, I actually like the way Ben Affleck portrayed him. In this, Batman is 55 years old. He's still a badass, but he's very brutal. He actually has killed people. People will try and tell you, no, he hasn't killed anyone in this, because they say the line, remember when Batman said guns are the weapons of cowards? Well, I'd say that's a bit hypocritical, considering he actually killed a mutant with another mutant's LMG. It's pretty subtle, but you can tell. Threw a mutant into a mutant is like their group, but threw a mutant into a very high voltage arcade sign. Uh, I technically consider him to have killed the Joker, because he cracked his neck, and there's only a few ounces left of pressure left, so it's kind of hard to rush him to a hospital if you have to be very, very careful. Even though he finished himself off. But yeah, Ben Affleck actually did a good job. The suit works both normal and mech look-wise. And just read this one. This one's very heavily pushed upon. There's even like 2 or 3 lines from this in the BVS movie. This one, you don't necessarily have to read or play if you don't want to, but it'd be kind of interesting just to get into it. But I'm talking about Injustice Gods Among Us, because if you notice in Batman v Superman, which you have, because it's in the Ultimate Cut and the theatrical cut. The evil Superman, sort of, with his little soldiers, are, you know, they're all evil, and Superman says, "She was my world, and you took her from me." And then he puts his hand on Batman's chest, Ben Affleck's chest or whatever, and all you hear is Ben Affleck screaming, and that's exactly what this is, but with the Joker. So you don't really need to read the storyline for that. And people say Batman was dreaming. I don't believe that for 1 second, really, because there was parademons in there. There was parademons in his dream. Uh, how could he dream of the Flash when he hadn't really even seen him yet or known what he had looked like? Because he woke up and the Flash was there, and he woke up again. So I think it was just a matter of the Flash, you know? So yeah, this would be an interesting one to read, because they kind of pulled that from this, but, you know, we'll see. Probably won't play out that big, but still pretty interesting if you think about it. So those are the storylines I think you should read, or at least look into, for a better look at BVS. It's not going to completely change your mind. I'm not saying that. You could have already read these, not liked any of them, and it's not going to change your mind. But for me, it gives me, I mean, I've already read, like I haven't read the Injustice storyline. I just read like the first issue and played the game like, I don't know, twice story-wise, and that gave me an idea of what it was. And you know, the Flash part's pretty easy. I mean, time travel, different dimensions. I mean, how would Bruce even know who he is? He hasn't met him yet at all. He didn't even look through the file yet. So, and Death of Superman and Dark Knight Returns. Like I said, I already read Dark Knight Returns like 10 times, for real. But, oh, and another thing, in Death of Superman storyline, it's kind of funny because he's actually young Lex too, but he has like bright red hair and a beard, and he's good. So, and he says like bloody, so I'm wondering if he's British. I don't know. Obviously you could be. Not that hard to tell. But I don't know, I like BVS as a whole, except for, you know, Doomsday and Martha. No storyline you read would ever be able to change that, I don't think. But some people like it, I don't. I think Jesse Eisenberg, if he has to keep playing the character, maybe he'll evolve into the iconic Lex, and maybe he'll like build some muscle mass and broad shoulders, you know, work on his shoulder structure and stuff. Because I mean, they shave the head or whatever, and I don't know if he said it in theatrical cut, but I know in Ultimate Edition, Batman's like, I've arranged for a transfer. Okay, no, I'll just say, he's like, I've arranged for a or he's like, we have facilities that treat the mentally ill with compassion, and then Lex Luthor, Alexander Luthor, replies with just like a laughing. He's like, but I'm not sending you there. I've arranged for a transfer to you to go to Arkham. I have some friends that are expecting you, so maybe like Lex Luthor will get more serious in the next movie, because I mean, he's stuck with a bunch of psychopaths, you know? Bunch of psychopaths that are crazy, and maybe he'll man up after that, as I'd say. I don't know, hard to explain it. But yeah, I guess they did a pretty good job. I like it. I just saw it because whenever there's a new superhero movie, I always try and get like my mom and brothers to see it. My brother still refuses to see it. He hates it, but all I gotta say is, if you don't have, for me, I have sort of an extensive comics knowledge, so I can understand it and like it for what it is, because it is accurate. They just cram too much into it, and portrayals people don't really know that much. Like my brother was trying to tell me, like, well, see, you know all about Dark Knight Returns Batman or whatever, but a lot of people just know like the no kill rule at all or whatever, and basic Batman. But what I was thinking was they showed. I mean, it's not that hard to put two and two together either, because even just if this was like a normal Batman, which it's not though, we know it's Dark Knight Returns. He even Ben Affleck does a good reminiscence of his lines and stuff. Like they're sort of what you'd expect him to say. But I expect people to put two and two together. And Metropolis, he was in Metropolis, and thousands of people got killed. Uh, this girl was. He's like, I'm gonna find your mother. Where is she? And she points to like a busted up, explode, like sort of broken down top of the building. And thousands of people died. There was lots injured. And when you get older, if you're someone like Batman, who's been through a lot or whatever, like parents getting killed at a young age, who are like your biggest supporters, and then that, of course, you start to not really care, really. But I don't know. I might do some videos on, not like a list of Batman movies I want for Affleck, but more of like how I want it to progress. Like, I want to do a video on what I'd like to see in his whole universe. Not the DC extended universe, just his whole universe in general, like his movies he's gonna do. And please get rid of Ezra Miller's ponytail and mustache, because I hate that. Barry Allen is my favorite Flash. If he's playing Barry Allen, I assume. But even after the nightmare quotation sequence, which I don't think it was a dream or nightmare at all, as I've said before, it wasn't even just then. When Diana, or Wonder Woman, sorry, opens up the metahuman file of Flash, Ezra Miller still has the ponytail and beard. So, you know, I don't know. I feel like maybe they shouldn't have, like, wanted to do this so bad. Like, to me it feels like maybe Zack Snyder or whatever had like a temptation, like everyone wants to end up seeing Batman and Superman fight, but you should try to build up before that. And I think it'd be cooler if we waited for this, because, like, I don't know, maybe like 5-6 years from now, when there's actually films of the characters themselves in it, like a Batman one, so that people who can't really put two and two together, not to be mean, will know more about how this happened to Batman. I don't know, I'll do more videos on, like, I'm trying to start this thing where I'll do like videos on the two specific characters for DCEU, like it's gonna be like a series of more like Batfleck flicks. Sounds weird, but I don't care. Something, still thinking of the name. And then trying to think of a funny name for Ezra Miller's Flash. I was gonna say this Rash, but that sounds stupid. So I'll think of something, but it's to familiarize the name with, the DCEU. But yeah, this was sort of my insight after the storylines I suggested. But yeah, I guess have a good night.